The bike you ride, the sofa in your living room, your children's playthings, even your car, most likely traveled across an ocean on a ship. And the chances are high that the very ships carrying those goods were themselves built in China. China has firmly established itself as the world's shipbuilding powerhouse. From steel and aluminum to components and assembly, the entire supply chain is under its control. Today, about 1/3 of all ships at sea were built in Chinese shipyards. Even more striking, nearly 60% of vessels currently under construction are being built there. In less than 25 years, China's share of global shipbuilding has risen from under 5% to more than half of total production. But China's influence doesn't end there. It also dominates the shipping container market. An estimated 95% of the world's containers are produced in China. To put it in perspective, one Chinese shipyard now turns out more vessels annually than every shipyard in the United States combined. This is remarkable, considering that shipbuilding was once an industry America led. President Donald Trump, after launching a trade war with China, has spoken about reviving U.S. shipbuilding, both civilian and military, as part of a broader strategy to reassert America's position on the global stage. Measures such as tariffs are part of this reset, which could reshape international trade dynamics in profound ways. Still, a question lingers. Can shipbuilding realistically be brought back to America? And if so, how? It's worth remembering that the U.S. once dominated this industry. Its peak came during World War II, when American yards mass-produced Liberty ships. Thousands of these vessels were built, playing a critical role in supplying the Allies and keeping them in the fight against Nazi Germany. That effort gave the U.S. enormous shipbuilding capacity. Over the decades, however, things shifted. After World War II, American production steadily declined. By the 1970s, Japan had overtaken the U.S. In the 1980s, South Korea joined the competition. By the 2000s, China entered the field and quickly surged ahead. Today, these three nations, China, Japan, and South Korea, completely dominate the global shipbuilding industry. China has been steadily strengthening its shipbuilding capacity for decades, but it is only in recent years that it has surpassed South Korea and Japan to become the world's leading shipbuilding nation. When China joined the World Trade Organization in the early 2000s, its economy began to accelerate rapidly, generating enormous demand for new ships. Beijing's 10th five-year plan explicitly included a vision for developing not just China's broader industrial capacity, but also its shipbuilding sector. This provided a clear foundation for the country's manufacturing workforce and resources to unite around the goal of building a globally dominant shipbuilding industry. Given China's immense scale in manufacturing, the move made sense. The country was already proficient at heavy industry, producing massive amounts of steel and other essential materials. It also had the advantage of a strong export-driven economy and a large labor force that was not only inexpensive, but increasingly skilled and well-educated. These were precisely the conditions required to produce advanced, complex ships at scale. Government backing was critical. By identifying shipbuilding as a strategic growth industry, Beijing ensured subsidies, infrastructure investment, and policy support flowed into the sector. This initial push created a reinforcing cycle. The more ships China produced, the lower the cost per ship became, further cementing its global advantage. The situation stands in sharp contrast to the United States. For decades, the U.S. has been offshoring much of its manufacturing, transforming into an economy dominated by services. Today, only about 8% of American employment is in manufacturing. This structural difference translates directly into costs. A container ship built in China is estimated to cost around $55 million, whereas constructing a comparable vessel in the United States can reach as high as $330 million. That price gap explains the enormous imbalance in production. Between 2020 and 2022, China had more than 4,000 large ocean-going ships on order, while the United States had only 12. In 2024, U.S. shipyards produced just 0.01% of the world's commercial ships. To put it into perspective, One single state-owned Chinese shipbuilder produced more commercial vessels by tonnage last year than the entire U.S. shipbuilding industry has managed since the end of World War II. Shipbuilding is one of the most capital-intensive and labor-heavy industries in the world. It requires not just skilled workers and factories, but an entire network of suppliers, specialized equipment, and support infrastructure. Large-scale production of advanced, high-value ships almost always depends on significant government subsidies. And this is precisely where China's centralized system gives it an edge. Between 2010 and 2018, China's government support for shipbuilding averaged an extraordinary $132 billion per year. That figure doesn't even account for indirect measures, such as instructing state-owned banks to provide ultra-low interest loans, writing off debts, or injecting equity into shipbuilding firms. If the United States were to compete on this level, it would need to offer similar subsidies to make shipbuilding commercially viable. Put simply, Washington would need to underwrite an industry that cannot stand on its own in the short term, meaning taxpayers would foot the bill. Donald Trump's proposal seeks to raise revenue for such an effort by targeting Chinese shipping directly. His plan introduces docking fees on Chinese-built, owned, or operated ships entering U.S. ports. These fees would start at $1 million per docking and could rise to as much as $3.5 million per visit. The measures don't stop there. Shipping companies with even a single Chinese-built vessel in their fleet would also be subject to these charges. Industry observers warn that this approach could spark what some have called a trade apocalypse. By dramatically increasing costs for shipping companies, the policy risks making American goods more expensive, inflating freight rates, fueling consumer inflation, and diverting global shipping routes away from U.S. ports altogether. The ripple effects on U.S. supply chains would be significant. Fewer ships stopping at American ports would force companies to rely more heavily on road and rail transport, reshaping how goods are distributed across the country. So far, the Trump administration has favored a go-it-alone strategy. America first, America alone. But moving from a nearly dormant shipbuilding sector to producing fully finished container ships and even cruise vessels is an enormous leap. Many experts suggest that a more realistic path would be to target specific parts of the shipbuilding supply chain where U.S. factories can compete and then provide the necessary support to help them expand into those areas. What the United States does have are two close allies, South Korea and Japan, both of which possess vast shipbuilding capacity and expertise. But the renewed American interest in shipbuilding isn't solely about economics. It is also rooted in broader security concerns. Allowing China to dominate this sector gives it a powerful maritime advantage, and for Washington, that raises serious questions about national security and influence over global trade routes.